Okay, today I want to talk about a very exciting topic, planning. All right, I done lost some of you right there. One of my favorite quotes is, we plan, God laughs. And there is an element of that, but then he goes on, I forget the author, but he goes on to say, it's not that all of our plans turn out the way we plan them, but it's the process of planning that helps guide us. And so I thought about that recently as I was reading in my journal, really late July. It was, let's see what day, not that it really matters, but it was July the 30th in 2013. So that's 11 years ago. And I was still pastoring the great Fort Mill Church of God. And on that day, and you don't have to do it like me, but I would do this once a quarter. And so we were getting ready for the last quarter of the year. And so I rented a room, seemed like it was $50, and you had bottomless coffee. And I rented a room at the Hilton Garden Inn just to get away from the campus, get away from the phones. And I took my leadership team over there, and we spent a day planning. And I had, in my journal, I had written down, got my thoughts together. I had written down the agenda. And I'm going to include this in my blog just to give you a point of reference. Again, you don't have to do it like I do it. And I had a full-blown staff there. You know, there were several sharp leaders. Matter of fact, I was probably the least sharp guy in the room. Everybody was my superior in their area of expertise. And I had a great team at that time. And we all gathered around the table and we spent the day. I took them out to lunch and we worked from morning all the way to dinner time, and then we left and went home. And so I had 6 things on my agenda, and I want to just run through them with you today. And the purpose is to maybe give you a point of reference here. We're still early in August, and I encourage you to spend time planning out the rest of your year. And this is in particular to pastors and church leaders, but this could work in any area of your life. And you manage your calendar, and then let your calendar manage you. And so I want to encourage you to have some form of this, even with your volunteer team. This will work. Your lay leaders, if you do have staff, you include them in, and you just have maybe a Saturday morning, and you just take a few hours and do this at least once a quarter. And do some intensive planning and strategizing, and it is amazing how that helps move things forward. And so anyway, so I had 6 things, and the first thing is we reviewed our major events for the rest of the year. And if you will remember, if you were there at my session at camp meeting, I shared with you, and one of the main points is that things happen when things happen. In other words, when you have events, when you draw a line on the calendar, when you say you need to be here for this, people will show up. It's amazing how they'll just show up. And when they show up, then you got a chance. You got a chance for people to be healed, to be saved, to be encouraged, to buy into your church. Just so many good things happen when people show up. And so here's a list through the rest of the year that we did to make things happen. And this was like clockwork. We changed the way we would do it. We changed the theme, but we had a routine. We had a system. We had a process. And so in August, and there's still time to do this, we're early in August, but I would always have a big back to school blessing Sunday. And I would encourage people to, as your kids are coming back to school, they're getting back from vacations and all this stuff. And school may have already started, but we'd start promoting it and kind of do it near the end of August. That way, all the schools that were in our area were started. And our youth and children's pastor had a big role to play in that, so you could use your youth and children leaders, and we would usually have gifts that we would give them, and we'd have backpacks. We'd just make a big deal out of it, And then my message would be related to that. And at the end, all the families would come down. And in our church, we had 3 aisles. We had an aisle there, I had an aisle here, and I had an aisle over here. So I'd have my children's pastor here maybe, I'd be in the middle, and the youth pastor over there. And the people would come down with their families, and we would lay hands on them and pray a blessing over them, and present, and have other staff with them, and they'd give them gifts, maybe a special Bible or just always something. And people would show up. So anyway, that was the Back to School Blessing Sunday. Then we discussed, for September, we discussed our revival. I know revivals are not cool anymore, but I promise you, I mean, one of the gifts to the church is evangelist, and we would have a big revival in the first part of the year and the last part of the year. And that would be to kickstart people's fervor, their passion, to get them back connected to the church, connected to God. And we'd take all the month of September with prayer and fasting, getting them ready for the revival. And we'd have whatever the theme that God had laid on my heart. I won't get into all that because it would change every year. But then we would have, and sometimes we'd even call it camp meeting, but we would have a big revival. And usually we would go from Friday to Sunday night. And so that's, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 4 services. And so we wouldn't, busy lives, there's nothing wrong with going all week, but to accommodate people's busy lives, they would give us a weekend. And we made a big deal out of it. And then in October, the anniversary of the church was in October. And so I just simply called it Friend Day here. And just bring a friend and let's celebrate our birthday. And it's just amazing. If you just draw a line in the sand, such and such Sunday is Friend Day, just bring a friend and let's celebrate, and whatever it is, we'd celebrate our birthday. And that was usually always a big ordeal, a big event. And here in Illinois, a lot of our churches are decades old. We've had several since I've been here. This celebrated 100th anniversaries. I'm going to be going a little later this fall, the All Nations Church. I believe it may be their 100th. I went over to the Logan. They had 105 years old. Well, these older churches, that heritage, you can leverage that heritage and so celebrate their birthdays out of a Friend Day. And then in November, we'd have a big missions weekend, and we'd bring in our missionaries and delegation from World Missions, and it was a big event. We'd start on Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. I won't get into all we did, but we started planning all the way in July, or late July. And then the last thing we planned for December was Christmas, the whole Christmas event. And if I could say anything about that, you want to do most of that before school's out, because once school's out, people start leaving. They maybe take that winter vacation, they go home for Christmas. But we'd plan all of that, even our Christmas activities, right around Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, and that Christmas Sunday. But the point, you don't have to do any of these things, but the point that I want to really illustrate is that we were planning for the rest of the year. We were planning these events. And I want to encourage you to do that. Once you start planning and you start drawing lines in the sand, it's amazing how that people begin to align around that, and then you can begin to promote, and you can begin to get organized, and your church begins to move forward. So I'm not going to spend a lot of other time on the rest, but let me just give you the list, and maybe we can come back around and talk about them later. But the second thing, after we kind of sketched out our plans, our themes, and what we're going to do, and deliverables, then number 2, we reviewed and coordinated all ministry dates and events. We made sure that all the other ministry dates and events worked around the big plan. And then we made sure that we were all in lockstep together, that we were not competing with events and things going against each other. So you have all the departments that they're weaving themselves together. So we discussed that. And then we allowed, number 3, I allowed each staff person to cast vision. As the pastor, I had the overarching vision, but it was very general, that kind of plugged in all of these every year, all of these that kind of be around a central theme. But your lay leaders, your staff, they have visions, they have hopes, they have dreams, and you validate them and affirm them by letting them share, so that the whole team can kind of speak for one another, and they can get on the same page as they hear each other's heart. And then number 4, we coordinated all the vacations and time off through the rest of the year. And you want to make sure your people stay rested. You want to make sure you don't have them all out of town on the same time, and that they work around the big events. And so, again, you're managing that calendar. And then number 5 and number 6 were 2 needs that I felt that our church, we were getting a little weak in. Number 5 was how to make prayer a more central focus of our church. We kind of got our eye off the ball in 2013. And when we got our eye off the ball with prayer and pastoral care, which is taking care of our people, making calls, visiting in the hospital, several things that we did. We had a whole system that we did. But when you stop caring for your people and you stop staying in touch with them, the church begins to drift. And so those are the 6 things, and I'll put those in the blog. But the main thing that I want to leave with you today is be intentional about planning, having a plan, keeping yourself organized, and meeting with your team. Develop a team and get them on the same page. If you do that, I promise you'll make progress. And that's why I talk about running to win. We want to run in the right direction, and we want to bring our people with us and cross the finish line. And those different things that we were planning, those were finish lines. And so anyway, there's enough said. I hope you're doing well. And September will be here, that last part of the year. And I pray that you'll have a great time, a great end of the year. And this little respite during August is a wonderful time to tee things up and get ready. So God bless you. We'll see you soon. Let's keep running to win for the gospel's sake.